Hello, thank you. So I don't have slides, I have just a bunch of images, and so it won't look very professional, but yeah. And also I have no idea how long that's going to take, so there's a lot of ground to cover. But yeah, we'll just cut it short yeah. So for me, using game technology engine to tell these cinematic linear experiences started in 2014. I had friends at Unity, and they were about to release their new version, Unity 5, which had some big improvements in graphics. They have, for the first time, physically based shading and like a semi-real-time GI solution. And they were making tech demos, and I went to them to pitch an idea to make something cinematic, like with a story. I had no idea how that would be done, but yeah, that didn't stop me from suggesting it. So at the time, we were working on there was a project that I kind of was helping the Unity people before that called Viking Village. So it was just some assets, Megascan assets. We were friends with the Quixel team, and we had kind of built this small scene, and that was one of the demos. So since the budget was so low, the idea was to find a story within using these assets to tell some story. So I came up with this is called the Blacksmith. I'll just, you probably haven't seen you, and that's for the better because it's horrible. But I'll just show you some stills from it. Okay, so I had to come up with a story that takes place in this Viking village. I want to make it something more, fantasy-like. We couldn't render real humans. There was no subsurface shaders, skin shaders, stuff like that. So I came up with this character like a deity, like a god, who was kind of lonely and bummed out, very depressed. My wife, she told me about one of the sagas of the Nordic sagas about Volund. I read a bit about that. There was this whole theme with rings that I won't go into much detail because really we shouldn't talk much about this project. The team was only 3 people. I was the only artist. There was 1 programmer and 1 animator. We had a little budget for contracting, but basically we had to build the whole thing. So the first artist that I contacted to help me with some pitch materials was, I don't know if you know him, Georgi Simeonov, Kalader. To me, to this day, he's the best, one of the best concept artists in the industry. He's amazing, and his new game just came out called Somerville. You should check it out. So he's amazing, and I've known him since he was in high school. So I contacted him. He was still working at Splash Damage at the time, and started exploring this Blacksmith character. I wanted, it was supposed to be to look a bit, ancient and not particularly, it had to look strange, but in a justified way. I wanted to have a lot of rings on him because that was a big theme, and Georgi came up with the idea to embed this in his body as well. So here's some early concepts, I don't know how much you can see. And this is basically the final design. I was still very worried about rendering a face, so he came up with a mask for it, but then it seemed to kind of work in the project, so we never used the mask. This is basically, all sorts of material references that Georgi prepared just to communicate to the modeler afterwards. This is the model. We just hired a local character artist, and he did, I think, a really nice job. There was a lot of back and forth. I will not go into much detail with this project because, this is the first renders in Unity. At the time, you can see there is a tear and the chest line, but this is, I had started building the scene, some experiments, and this is with the other character. The other character was designed and fully textured and modeled and projected by a guy, I think he's here. So Sergei Samuilov, really great artist. And yeah, this is this character. Another Bulgarian artist, Dimitar Marinsky, who is now working on Fable, the new Fable game. He made some of these images that I went to pitch to Unity, just like for mood, then some concepts for the environment, thumbnails. So that's with this project. So it was a very funny pitch. I went to the Unity people and I said, I have this idea. I started talking, showing images very passionately. And they say, you know, we're programmers. We have no idea what you're talking about, but it seems like you do. So just go and do whatever you want. So we did that. We showed at GDC 2015. And that was a huge success for Unity. We got a lot of attention. And that's where it became really for me. I wasn't an employee. I took a leave of absence from my previous job to do this project with Unity, and then I was about to go back, but I had so much fun that I just stayed around. And we're going to the next project. And can't move the mouse. Oh, that's why. There are some environments rendered in Unity, but I don't know if you need to be looking in those. Okay, this is still this project. So the next project, next year, after we were done with that, I'll just get this. So we got this attention, I got a bigger budget, could hire a couple of people, some people that I had worked with previously at Heretic and Blacksmith came on board, the team got a bit bigger. We had one dedicated 3D artist, because I'm crap at many things, but I'm not good at anything in particular. So he came on board, and Krasimir Nechevsky came as animation director. So we had started to form like a core team that made more sense. So for the next project, I want to do something different. I'm not a big fantasy fan in general. I just had to, do something with Viking houses before. And there were some new technological advances in Unity, like temporal anti-aliasing, which allowed us to have shinier surfaces, like metal surfaces more, because specular aliasing is a big problem in general. So for the Blacksmith, everything was kind of stone and wood. And also we had screen space reflections and planar reflections. So I just said, okay, we still can't make humans, so I'll make something with robots. And I'm not a big fan of robots that behave like humans. Like the generally idea, I get it. It was a good metaphor for how we treat people that are different, but they have the soul and passion and stuff like that. But to me, it's a very, and I mean, I respect some of the work, but I think everything was set there in this sort of portrayal of AI that is basically a copy of humans. So I started thinking of how to make robots that are not robots. And basically it became, okay, these are actually human beings that are punished. Basically they have lost their corporeal rights. So they're stripped of their organs. It's a failing society in the future. People are sick. So criminals basically get harvested for organs. And some months later, actually, I read an article that this is really happening in China at the moment with a certain religious sect. So it's horrifying stuff. This is Adam. This is to this day our most successful project. It has a gazillion views on YouTube, got us a lot of attention, a lot of awards. If you haven't seen it, I'll just have some shots from it. It's so we started 2015 to work on this one. So yeah, so here I want to talk a bit more about world building and how we approached that. So to me, my background is in art, so I'm not really a storyteller. To me, world building and characters are way more interesting than stories. So we don't really have stories when we start working on a project. I come up with potential stories in this world after I have done a big work on building the world, the universe, the lore. And this includes ancient history and how we end up here with the political system, how food is made, what are these particular characters, motivations, stuff like that, previous generations, where things are going in the future. And then we have to make, a 5-minute short film in that. I believe this is important because when you make a short film, you need to have the confidence that you know what is going on. So the audience, even if they don't, there's no way for them to pick everything up. But they know that there is something to know, that there is some depth in this world. And I really hate these just exposition dumps like text in the beginning and, how Ridley Scott ruined Blade Runner, for instance, and stuff like that. I mean, this is the thing, we just throw you straight in the piece, you watch it, and you get as much as you can. But art can help a lot with that. So, for instance, the big challenge was the audience will be seeing robots, but they need to get reminded that this is a human. So that's why you can see some of the early explorations. There's on the skull or whatever of the head. There is like a vaguely geometrical brain patterns. Also that there are criminals. We went with this orange plastic wrap, which is popular, at least in pop culture. I don't know how popular it is actually for inmates. So they have these uniforms. So here you can see the Georgi, again, this time Georgi came full-time on the team. So you'll see he did a lot more work. Did all sorts of crazy explorations. I wanted to keep human proportions because, again, we have to be fighting with the audience that rejects the notion that this is a human. So I wanted to make it as, to look more human. Kind of wanted to stay away from these more weird proportions. Here, all sorts of explorations. I was really interested in the idea of using a death mask. If you know famous people in the 18th, 19th century, when they died, they would make a plaster cast of their face to kind of preserve it on their death after they died. So I thought that would be a cool idea to have like a 3D printed some sort of face. Sounded good in my head. Then we tried it and it seemed like really creepy, like a robot trying to be human rather than a human behind a robot mask. So then we just got rid of most of the facial features, and the idea was to just have these wide eyes behind the mask, oppressive mask. So here, color explorations, different poses, ideas. I wanted to have, in order to convey the idea closer, and it's kind of like a tablet of shame, again, from medieval times. So they have a screen, a LED screen on their chest with the crime, like how do you call that? The file with what they did to, And basically the big question was what actually defines a human? Now all these humans, they're mass-produced, they all look the same, but there is, that's the way that people look, that's not what defines them. So that was, something that we had to show. So all sorts of ideas, material explorations. Also I wanted to have lungs. Basically, the idea was like on high level that if somebody had a certain disability, they won't harvest this particular organ, so they get to keep them. So the characters had the lungs, so they're breathing. The number one question asked on YouTube is, why the hell is it breathing? This is going close to the final design. A lot of iterations on the mechanics of things. Also, I didn't want to have any mechanical whirring sounds. I really hate that. And, modulated voices. We're way past this technology. Also, it needed to look cheap, government grade for prisoners, but also new, no wear and tear, because it was just produced. This is the final design of the mask. Okay, so this is the main character, Adam. Later in the film, because we see first how he wakes up after this operation, goes up and sees there are hundreds, thousands of people like him. They're basically exiled. So while he's rejecting this body, he's going in a fit, smashing his face, and that allows us to distinguish from the other ones later in the film. Another character, these are the guards. These are basically the military force from the ruling government. Georgi, the art director, really wanted to push for that medical, because it's such a medical procedure combined with just a penalty. He wanted to have really like medical visuals there. So he explored the covers, the face masks, stuff like that. And also they're kind of these robot shells now, they're very dehumanized. So he used this like a kettle prod to kind of add to the dehumanization of these people. This is more or less the final design. Even you can see that the rifle is kind of like, looks like a syringe. And this was actually modeled and textured again by Sergei, who I hope left by now. This is a couple of other characters. They're the main characters of basically the idea, really quickly, is that there is a society formed in the wilderness by these exiles. This has been happening for many years. So some are previous generations. So we had this, basically the first character I came up with was actually Sebastian, is called this like elder leader. It was supposed to be about him, actually, the whole film, but then I came up with several stories and it turned out, we just made the one that we had the budget for. So not the most exciting one. And Sebastian was going with his lieutenant, second in command, so we just called Lou. In the end, basically for me the inspiration was from Kingdom of Heaven. There is Saladin and his right hand there, and I really like that image of how they're kind of like, he's clearly the leader, but they're kind of equal in certain ways in their dynamic. That was very interesting to me, gave that a lot of references like that. So Georgi went, these are early explorations, there was some animalistic. So the idea was that I wanted him to look big, like physically big on screen, but it's still a human, still a prisoner. So Georgi was looking for ways to just bulk up the silhouette using, for instance, like these wrappings of previous generation robots or some dead arms just harvested. This is just like a mood thing, just to get a feeling that he did different heads. So tribal, obviously a big thing, but also a spiritual leader. I found a really great statue, Bulgarian, of Paisi Hilandarsky, I think, that I really loved, where he's kind of holding the stuff and his chest is hollow out and there is a book, like, I guess, the gospel or something. I really like that hollowed out chest idea. So Georgi came up with the idea, this is the final design. He did it in 3D so we could explore it. He came up with the idea that he was an old generation, and old generation technology is larger, so he had a big screen, but then he took it out and carries it like, the images of Moses with this big book of laws, commandments. So, and also he added the halo thing. I really like the idea of having some sort of saintly look, but it's a halo, but it's also crooked. It's golden, but it's also rusty. So you never really know what, is he really a good guy? He kind of is a savior in this scenario here, but we don't really know what his motivation is. Maybe he's recruiting an army, right? And but at least in the context of the film, he's absolving them from their sins and joining. Again, all sorts of different details for detailing. The idea that I had is to put him on stilts to get really big, and they're nice automated stilts that go down. So that's why he's much larger. This is not here, you can't see, but his whole cape is covered by shards of broken screens. Because basically the screens, if you remember, they're what remind people of their crimes. So he absolved them of their crimes and basically rips off these screens of shame. This is Lou, the other character. Again, a lot rich backstory. I won't go into that. Just different idea. Okay, so this is exploration of the cell. So the idea is that it's a bit hard since you haven't seen it, but so Adam gets created, like reborn in this cell. I hated the name Adam, by the way. I said we'll never keep that. It's so much on the nose, so literal. But in the end, we were so used to it, so I said, okay, whatever. So different explorations. So for this, I wanted to feel birth, so like a womb and a birth canal going out. In the end, we went through a couple of iterations, but in the end, it was this one. Oops, that kind of looks a bit like viscera, like guts inside of these pipes going in. So these are the first explorations that Georgi made. Then he built himself, like the 3D environment, and that was awesome because we could do so much iteration. So this is just a rough 3D sketch that he built with all the machine, like it's all thought out about how the plastic wrap is, the life support system, how there's a lot of stuff going on here. This is the last version, basically. And in the end, we ended up shipping. We didn't have time to rebuild all the assets, so we just a huge chunk of this is just these assets, but with a tiling texture slapped on. This is a different view, more from like towards the exit. Then the outside. So after Adam leaves his chamber, we see the outside, where we basically see this is the wall where they're sent to exile, the robots. And Georgi had this idea of building it like medical records, like files, just to give that subliminal idea of something that you kind of recognize. It's still very, brutalist, oppressive, very proper straight line structure, but to have this sort of feel to that. This again, he built this, and this is from Unity, I guess. Oh no, it's Maya. He built it there so we could test the scale of things and just the whole logistics of the film. These are these moving platforms that the guards are standing on. They had to be moving because when these only two characters come from the desert, all the guards, like tens of them, maybe more, fully armed, they just panic and run the hell out of the place, which is supposed to tell, okay, these are only two, but they're really, really scary. And we don't do anything. It's just anything else. It's just the behavior of the guards that hints to that. Again, very short film. We don't have time to explain much. This is just a different view. And then he started sketching out. It used to be glorious, rich structure, but it's kind of falling apart. Not in, the society is falling a bit, and that's why we have this whole, inhumane procedure. More concept art. I really hope that he just started detailing, painting over the renders to come up with a visual language of the architecture. These are the different doors that the inmates are emerging from. Close-up of a panel of a platform going up. This is more of a moody paint of the area. I really wanted to make it so the sun to be behind the wall, so it casts a long shadow, so that to have these just really poor souls stumbling. They're learning to walk, so everybody's kind of looking drunk a bit and emerging into the light where they're met by the Savior, like these Jesus, Moses figures. But then, it didn't look good when I tried to light it, because real-time people know that it's really hard to make indirect shadows and really soft. There is no IBL, shadow IBL in real time. So but this was some other exploration. This is the meeting point where they're coming. These big tall figures are coming and then descending down from their stilts to meet the new people. This Georgi was experimenting with a frozen lake. Didn't end up doing it. Ran out of time. So this is just different key art, art from different scenes of the film. He would just take a frame and paint over it. Again, details on the wall itself, the elevator mechanism of the platforms. Yeah, this is just some generic thumbnails that, yeah, early napkin sketches, some more mechanic explorations. So since we needed to have many of these characters, and they had to look kind of different, they have the plastic wrap is in different places because they, when they're panicking, when they're getting unwrapped, they just tear pieces, as Adam does to his sleeve in the film. But this gives us an excuse to have some variety in cover. Again, what happens behind the mask, stuff like that. Yeah. So it's just from his sketchbook, thumbnails. So really quick explorations, then we can just, he can portray a visual idea really quickly, and then we can talk about it, and then we decide if there is need to invest going deeper. I really love that idea, but yeah, didn't have the time or budget. So, So we started in late summer 2015, and it was done for GDC, which means March 2016. So like 7 months maybe. But the problem for us is, it's not really a problem because also it's an exciting thing, but we're always on the bleeding edge of technology. We're testing the new stuff that is being developed, and we also on our team develop new stuff. And the bleeding edge is great, but you tend to bleed a lot. So there is stuff that, they can keep crushing, and so it's never a smooth sail. Like, we're working on a very work in progress technology. Okay, so maybe we should go to the proper times. So here I have a bunch of, just to show, okay, I'll go real quickly. This is the very first thing. We didn't even have proper concept art yet. This is just in Unity, trying things, Adam waking up. Then I started playing with some lighting. We used a very cheap, how do you call, non-optical solution for mock-up. So we just mock-upped each other. Go over these quickly, and I just had to spend time to explore. This you can see is the previous design for the background, so just exploring. Here we added area lights. So I started looking, okay, area lights are awesome when everything is metal, so let's see where we can incorporate these. This is with the Bulgarian actor who played Adam, with this cheap markerless solution that I mentioned. This was rehearsal, and then the actual mock-up after we built he's called Ovanes Torosyan. Really great working with him. So then we got this rehearsal stuff and put it in Unity, where, just trying different things. Here you can see the model has evolved a bit. Then we added tube lights, which immediately I started abusing here at the top. Adam trying to make sense of it all. Here, volumetrics, and again, everything became like, super smoky. So you can see every time a new technology lands, I just start abusing it like crazy, and then it takes time to tone it down. This is the new Adam model. This is close to final, but still you can see that it's not really smooth. There is no textures, it's just flat. And this is a closer, I think this is an actual performance here. Yeah, you have to imagine that he tears his sleeve off. Looking at his reflections, matching his mask. Here, just trying. The great thing about working in real time is that you can try things. You might not have concept art or story, but you can explore with music and with lighting and grading, and you can look for shots. Many things came just for happy coincidences. Here I can show you, we had a rough storyboard, and then this just like playing with it, trying things, reflective surface, I liked it, then getting closer. Just riffing with that, and then this is the final shot. Okay, so there is a lot of stuff, but Okay, next project, Book of the Dead. So while working on Adam, I saw on a Unity forum thread somebody said, somebody wrote that they were willing to give $100 to anyone who can make a forest in Unity. And I said, okay, that's an interesting challenge. And after Adam, I set up, okay, the next project is in a forest. I'll think of something. And I came up with this idea. We have to go really quickly. So these are all renders from Unity. Book of Dead, you can see it on YouTube. So there was a lot about word building here, but there is no time for that. So I'll just run through these. Concept art, so the idea was there are these characters that are kind of, it's about the afterlife and what death means exactly. Death, I read a lot on death, and it's kind of a process that has changed through the years. Back in the day when somebody stops breathing, they were proclaimed dead, but then, we can revive people, like there might be no heart beating or even brain failure. So this was about people going in cryonics, when they freeze their brain, so they kind of cheat the system, because currently the idea is that when there is damage to the brain, which is irreversible, that's when, death technically comes. So in this case, they go to the afterlife, but their brains are kind of intact because they're frozen, so they make a craziness in this limbo place. So there's a lot of iterations here, and I really wish I could tell you about them. So going through many of these, a lot. Maybe some videos will make sense. Also, they were doing damage to the afterlife because they can't move. It's not the afterlife. This is basically in the fiction of the film, it is like a limbo where they're supposed to stay for 10 minutes while they're, but they stay there and start damaging things, start building things. They try to because they are confused, try to replicate what they know from this forest. So they bring down trees, build these street lights and houses, try to make birds. Yeah, a lot of exploration there. There is this character, the guide, the psychopomp. In every religion we kind of have one of these. I'll just go through these quickly. He kind of changes form throughout the course. Yeah, here we had also 3D. Plumman made a lot of 3D explorations. I found a very interesting Japanese statues of these, like driftwood. Yeah, I'll go faster. So this is the final character, the final model. Yeah, this is just some props. Progress videos that we don't have time for. Tech. Other concept. Yeah. Okay, so after that, the next project was the Heretic, which was, I don't even know. So this is for the first time. So Book of Dead was an interactive experience based on optical illusions. The gameplay was supposed to be. For the next project, finally I decided it's time to tackle humans. This is 2017 now. No, I'm confused. Maybe 18. So time to tackle humans, and this was for us the first time. I hated every single human that I've seen in real time or in film. Once they start moving, it becomes horrible. So we did some research. These are just stills from the project. Did some research and decided to go with 4D, which basically, these are just shots from the film. Again, you can watch all of these on YouTube. So for the character, we went up with 4D, which is basically, I can show you a video, I guess. So this is one take. So this is 3D, and you can see it's basically a frame per mesh per frame. A lot of instabilities, but it's every single thing is moving. It's just like a 3D video. So that seemed like that would do the trick. And then there is a lot of work. Like after that, you have to go through cleanup. This is the mesh to retopologize to every frame, to stabilize. It was no time to go through that. You can see the character is bald for a good reason. We couldn't make hair. There was a whole generation of games with the bald space marines. We had these weird characters that were shape-shifting and stuff like that, but yeah. And present times, our latest project is called Enemies, which is the next generation of digital humans for us. Some stills from the project. Oh, this was actually, maybe I have time to show you at least parts of it. So this is, a colleague of mine took a shot from every revision from Subversion, from Perforce in this case, how the scene looked. So this is, if you've seen it, you can see it online, but we went through some things. It's a very simple project, kind of. It's one character in one environment, but the environment is moving and transforming. Yeah, this is the great thing in real time is that you can try many stupid things really quickly. Here you can see I just crammed 2 T-Rex skulls into the desk because I kind of like that. Going down, yeah, I'm just fast forwarding here. Okay. So digital human, this is what we ended up with. This is a shot from Unity. I am so stupid I had to take the photos to see side by side. I think we did a really good job, these renders in real time. And we did a lot of work. You can see the pitch fuzz, the caustic CNIs, the skin shaders, stuff like that. Here's some work in progress. These are all renders from Unity. You can see we changed the haircuts several times. This is again a look depth scene with different light setups, so we have the photographic material that we can just compare and see if something doesn't look right. With translucency transmission in the ears, the pitch fuzz, stuff like that. And to me, it's incredible. I started professionally in games in 2001, and we could not do these things. This is the hair. We made the fully real-time hair simulation. Like in another project, we simulate on the PS5 2 million hair strands. And also this is a physical, the rendering. Yeah, here you can see this is a funny video of the system. Like this is just, you can tweak it, all sorts of, make it curly, different types of hair, different viscosity, grooms, so you can author in your favorite package. And it's very loadable. You can see that you can simulate a very small amount of strands and then interpolate to the others. So this just shows the unique groups. So in the distance, you can have hundreds of characters with very simple hair. Yeah, this was a project that we helped on with the hair in Unity. Again, running on PlayStation, you can see the little cup ruffling the lion's mane. So yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Does this work?
Okay, later, Adam was continued, but by different people. Can you tell us how that worked? Unity owned the rights, and they just gave it to someone else to make it, because there were a lot of requests that you expand on that universe, and someone else did, and not you. Why did that happen? Can you?
Yes. So the thing with me is when I finish a project, I hate this project more than anything. I already had written sequels for Adam while we were making it, but by the time we were finished, I didn't want to do anything with it. So we approached Neil Blomkamp to make these sequels, but just gave him creative freedom. So I haven't seen them because to me it's a bit, to me they're not kosher, they're fan fiction. Yeah, this is how I just didn't want to do anything with Adam at this point. Which is a bit of a shame because I have written, there is a lot of this universe for every single project. I believe that even if you show 2 minutes from something, like Enemies, this last project is it's probably the biggest, it's a Bible of how many things are happening. But I just, I would always prefer to do something fresh.
Boyanka?
I have a question. We saw a lot of the iteration process and what you've been doing to create these characters and these stories, but for me the question was, what's your personal motivation to be working on these projects? What do you like the most about working on such projects?
Well, to me, I have this privilege that I have complete creative freedom to do whatever I want. And I do this because this is what I want. I've been a film buff all my life, and also games. I have no idea how films are made apart from, seeing some documentaries. So I thought that what I've learned from making games can actually be quite useful here. So, and that's a lot of fun because it's a very collaborative process. On our team, we don't have departments and leads and hierarchies. It's just people that, okay, I can do this, I can do that. And if nobody can do, then somebody else, we have to contract somebody. So to me, it's just fun. And Book of the Dead was supposed to be, we built it as an interactive piece because let's do something like that. But then the team is very small and this is easier. So one day maybe we'll do something more interactive, for instance, but I'm kind of burned out from games. I was in games for 13, 14 years, but yeah. So it's just fun, yeah.
Haven't you considered releasing the project files for the demos?
Yes, we do as much as we can. So it's a lot of work for our small team. Basically, we have to cut the line between doing this long tail to do the additional work. Because we want all the assets that we work on, we want to release for free to people to learn from them. Although, yeah. So we just give everything away, but it takes time to clean up. I mean, if you have been in games, you know what sort of names you put to things, and I'm very, very sloppy worker. Everything is a mess after I've gone through it, and then I lose interest. So you can't really make me go and tidy up.
Actually, I would say it would be more educational to see the ugly side, because
you
for
say
people
that
in the
but
game industry, I mean, we know that it's all a mess, so we maybe want to see what your mess looks like, or to see how it ends up, because you want to see the process of making such a thing, and you want to see the ugly side.
Yeah, that's a fair point. So we actually do release as much as we can, and we're working now to releasing enemies. Some projects, like with the Heretic, we had a problem with timeline or something, and we worked on performance a lot after that, but so our demos are supposed to work on normal gamer hardware, not on NASA machines or on current generation of consoles. So that we're quite limited with that, but that's a big optimization push. And for us, it's either spending an additional year doing that or doing the next best thing, the next creative project. So we do something in between. We write the block. We always release, like for every project, we've released a lot of materials, like assets. Assets we try to always release. Usually what we don't release are the timeline when you scrap, because it's such a huge mess. But for this one, I think the plan is to release everything.
It's on.
Hi. In regards to concept art, it has been recent popularity for AI-generated art. What do you think about using AI to generate, maybe not the assets themselves for the ideas or the concept art, but maybe generate inspiration ideas using AI?
Ooh, that's a hairy one. It's a long conversation because it touches on many things, and moral is one of them as well. So I think this is the future, and I embrace it, but I'm not using it currently because I haven't made my mind philosophically. Actually, the Heretic, our project, is about how we are not ready to cope with technology is happening so fast, and scientists are usually so fascinated by it that they get narrow-minded about the philosophy of things and how, as humans, we have evolved in certain ways. And we have things in our brain that kind of hold us back. That's why we have religion, for instance. And it's tricky how we don't know the answers. And I think philosophy is actually quite important nowadays. But I think it's kind of like a client, right? You can write your brief and it will produce something. But also you can argue that it can't create new styles, and we have to project to the new generations that it's a career to be a creative, to be an artist. But if it's a fully automated job, how do you protect these jobs? And then it becomes about governmental protection. It's tricky. But to me, I'm excited, but not using it yet. But yeah, and at Unity we're doing a lot of exciting things with, not on the concept art side, but there are way more exciting opportunities there, I think.
Okay, yeah, I think that becomes more in the prompt you need to give to the AI, tinker and tailor that so you can produce the ideas you have in your head.
Prompt is the current interface, right? But humans can interface like subtleties. Maybe you can do it in different ways. And even now there are hybrid systems where there's in-painting, for instance. You can do an initial prompt and then circle something. I don't like this, or keep giving more variation of that. Yeah, it will evolve quite a bit. And it reminds me, back in the day, there was a software, like a vector painting software that I don't remember how it was called, but there was a group of artists, if you know Sparth or Vile, they argued that with this software it was making patterns, random patterns, to break your preconception as an artist. So it would make something for you, and then alchemy, yes, thank you. So you would start with something that didn't come from you. So this can be a great tool for artists. I'm sure that at one point somebody was really grumpy that artists no longer made their pigments, right, or the canvas. But this is a tool, right? And I'm a very lazy person. That's why I never became a good artist. Because to me it's boring to draw anatomy and nature. And some people, they're just wired in a way that to them, working hard is not boring. And this is kind of, disrupting that. Now it's about the creativity. And we have to do better than prompts, I guess. But for now, even that is a good start. But a very long question.
Okay, last question. Anyone? No, okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Veselin, Efremov.